So
the campaign itself, was it different in terms of what you did, you as a candidate, Libby Maynard, from the '78 campaign? Was it pretty much the same kind of campaign? Did you have different responsibilities? Was there any difference for a woman running in '90 than in '78?
much more. I mean, I never ran into like the gentleman from Jackson County saying a woman running for lieutenant governor. It was perfectly normal. People were accepting, and you really campaigned everywhere. A few times the governor sent me into places he didn't want to go, so those weren't always pleasant. But
Right.
that's you grit your teeth and go, right?
That goes with the job.
That goes with the job, right, right. But again, you know, people. I like the people in this state, so that part of it. But you know, losing isn't the best. I mean,
Right.
you learn a lot, but it's not the best thing to go after all the time. So
Is it fair to say it was easier as a woman to be a candidate in '90 than it was in '78?
Absolutely, because a lot of women then had run and won. You know, there are more women running for things like school boards and judges and things like that, so much more acceptable. And we'd had Martha Griffith in there, and there was a woman running. Connie Binsfeld was running on the Republican ticket, so there were plenty of women around who were running. So
I wanted to ask you about that. Connie Binsfeld, well, Senator Engler ran as the Republican challenger to Governor Blanchard, and he chose a colleague from the Senate,
right.
Connie Binsfeld, Senator Binsfeld. Did you sense that was because Governor Blanchard had chosen a woman? Was it part of the political necessity at that point?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it's almost gotten to the point in Michigan and a lot of other states is that if you have a woman at the top of the ticket, you better run a man as the lieutenant governor candidate and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah. Which is great. I mean, it's one way to make progress, and soon maybe we'll even be more diverse than that. So, and we won't have to think about it.
Close race in that instance.
Yeah.
You had some surprise at the end. What then did you do following that 1990 race? Did you revert to where you'd been before you were asked to run and say, "Now I'm going to go home"?
Yeah, I did. Sort of. Yeah, I did. But so several things. I did a lot of teaching. As I said, I never taught, but I had an area of expertise, which was gerontology. So I taught at Lansing Community College, and I taught at the University of Michigan School of Social Work and MSU School of Social Work. And one of the things I felt best about is in one of the classes I taught at U of M, there was a man there who was a non-traditional student. He'd come back to get his MSW. He'd been in the business world. And he was going to go into casework because he figured that's what he should do. And he took my class because I can't teach a class and not talk about systems and change and everything. And at the end of the class, he came up and he said, well, I may still go into casework, but I'm certainly going to approach it in an entirely different way because of what we talked about in class. And I think that made me feel as good as anything, right? Because that would be my criticism of social workers. They think they can just handle one little individual and they don't understand everything that impacts what they're doing.
But well, help me understand what is it your message is in that classroom and from your experience. You know, we certainly understand social work from the perspective of feeding the hungry and getting health care to the needy and so on. You're wanting to add something to that.
Yes and no. Jane Hall, who, the Hall House, in Chicago, she was not just into feeding the hungry. She was also in looking at what was going on in the city of Chicago that was causing this. So she was looking at what are the social constraints that are out there. What's going on, and how do I change that? And what I say to the students that I teach, and unfortunately today, a lot of students who go to social work school, they go into casework or group work or or they'll do individual counseling because they can get third-party reimbursement there. And they think that if they can learn all about the psychology of intervention for an individual, then that's all they can wear those blinders and not realize that what the legislature does, what laws are passed, what's going on in their city council makes a difference on their individual clients. And all I say is, learn your material for your area, but understand there's a bigger world out there that you need to think about, and if you can have an impact on, make that impact. So that's all I say to them.
It's interesting that you and our junior U.S. Senator, Debbie Stabenow,
Right.
comes from a background in social work as well.
Right.
Do you think that uniquely prepares someone for political office?
As well as the ministry. I mean, I think the better legislators are the people who have thought about it in other than in just in terms of power.
Right.
But there are school teachers that get elected. There are all kinds of you have own oil rigs and get elected presidents.
Yes.
So what do I say, right?
You didn't go home for too long.
No, we did a couple of other things. A group of us started a wonderful organization that called the Michigan Prospect for Renewed Citizenship, of which you are the executive director, to look at state public policy issue and how government and citizens can work together to solve the problems that are here in the state of Michigan. So it's a progressive think tank, and we look at policy issues that impact the state of Michigan, like education or social justice or campaign finance reform. So it's really why, when I think about it, it's really originally why I got into politics.
And focus on issues again.
To focus on issues, absolutely. So we did that, and then in 1996 I ran as regent of the University of Michigan and was elected and was re-elected again last year. And that's a wonderful challenge. Public higher education is under real stress today. I don't think the legislature really, or state governments all over the country really appreciate the value of public higher education to the quality of life in this country. And I think tough times are here for a while. The other interesting thing is that I've learned how to work with 7 other colleagues, sometimes well and sometimes not well. So I really honor those of you who worked in the legislative arena and when it gets expanded by numbers, because you have 8 different egos, and it's not always easy. But in the end, it's a good group. Yeah.
Now you spent this time in public education on the Board of Regents. Is this something that you thought about earlier as a possibility? Had you ever considered that in the midst of your other political activities?
Back when one of my jobs was to go help find education candidates.
When you chaired the party.
Actually, more when I was vice chair. When I was vice chair and chair, and you're looking for good education candidates, and as you know, they oftentimes in the heat of a convention don't end up being good education candidates. It's whatever balances the ticket, and I understand that side of it, but. In the back of my mind, I said someday when I have more time, because I think even though this is not a paid position, you get paid with football tickets and basketball tickets and free parking, which isn't bad, right? But there is no pay involved. And it's not full time. You do expend a lot of hours, and so I wanted to do it when I could do a better job than just run in and run out. So it was in the back of my mind. And I'd been asked before to do it, and it wasn't until '96 that I decided the time had come. And so I'm glad. And it's 8 years, so you don't have to run, you don't have to campaign that often. So that makes it a little more pleasant